recording this, has been working in the whole area of perinatal mental health as a psychiatrist here in Northern Ireland, Belfast, for many, many years. She has been leading on the specialist services and the campaigning for the specialist services. She has been key to us moving forward, all that we have and all that we are getting, and we're absolutely delighted to have you here today, Janine. I don't know if you're going to be sharing that you might have moved on slightly from the role, the day-to-day role, but you have just been an absolute champion for perinatal mental health here in Northern Ireland, and we're absolutely delighted that you're here to join us and give us a really exciting update about where these specialist services are now at. So I will hand over to you and let you share with us what we have.
Thank you, Lindsay. That's great. I'm just actually wondering how I move my screen on when I'm moving the slides. Do you know what the easiest way to do that is?
If you maybe just click your mouse button once, does that work?
No, I haven't got a mouse because I'm on an iPad. I've done it. Oh, here, that's it. That's fine. I've got it.
Right. I'm here to try and let you chat, okay?
Lindsay, thanks a million for the very kind introduction, and it is lovely to be here. Just to explain, I've worked as a perinatal psychiatrist in Belfast Trust for many years, and I've just left clinical work within about the last 6 weeks, and I'm now employed by the PHA to help with the rollout of these teams across the north. So I'm delighted to be here today and just to have a chat about where we are and what the way forward is. So I'm going to chat a bit about the regional specialist services. Just to say before I start, I'm actually in London at the moment, and I'm staying with a friend whose house seems to be directly under the flight path for Heathrow Airport. So if you hear a distant rumble, it's a jet going overhead, so I hope it doesn't disturb us too much. Okay, so you all know the story so far, and as you know, for many years, a group of professionals and a group of very dedicated people with lived experience, including Lindsay herself and Michelle, have been campaigning for the development of specialist services here. We've lagged far behind the rest of the UK, and in January 2021, following this very high-profile public campaign, the Minister for Health, Robin Swan, who I have to say has been a great friend to perinatal mental health, announced a significant amount of funding to be provided on a recurrent basis in order to support the development of specialist teams in each of the 5 trusts. There has also been a firm commitment to the funding and the provision of a regional mother and baby unit as well. Okay, the campaign, as I say, has gone on for 20 odd years, I'm sure, you know, since I started as a consultant, and there's been lots of false starts and lots of stuttering along the way, but it looks as though hopefully we have finally got there. Okay, so the group that is really leading on the development of the teams is what's called the Regional Perinatal Mental Health Implementation Group, which has been started or chaired by the Public Health Agency. There's cross-trust input, there's cross-discipline input, there's input from representation from women with lived experience on the group. And I have to say, it's a very passionate group. The individuals involved are very passionate and very clear about the way they want services to develop. We're not always in total agreement, but it's very healthy arguments, and I hope that it has produced you know, a very clear way forward, and that these services are going to be fully comprehensive and deliver the very best of care for women. We were asked to look, when the business cases came to be written, it had to be separated into the regional teams and the MBU separately, because the MBU involves capital funding. So that was the reason why the business cases had to be separated out. And as a group, we did decide to prioritise the specialist teams because it was felt that we could get those up and running much more quickly and be able to deliver care for women much more quickly. What's the aim of specialist perinatal teams? It's to make sure that women get expert care, and the key word there is expert. Okay, so the people that are in these teams will have additional training and additional expertise in perinatal mental health. So not just generic mental health specialists, but people who are expert in perinatal mental health. The aim is to predict these illnesses. The aim is to detect them early. The aim is to give them accurately diagnose them, and of course to administer effective and rapid treatment. Okay, because we do know that the earlier these illnesses are diagnosed and the earlier we instigate treatment, the better women are likely to do, and the less likely you are to get serious adverse outcomes and to get long-lasting illnesses. Okay, so it's very clear from the evidence that we have very robust treatment and effective treatment available, and we just need to get it to people at the right stage in the illness for recovery. Who's on the teams? What are the teams made up of? Okay, so these are community mental health teams. There's medical input in the form of consultant psychiatrists, and also in some of the teams there'll be a staff grade. And we will hopefully be at a future stage able to provide training for senior trainees so that we're continuing to build on our workforce. Input from psychology, okay, in order to deliver psychological methods of treatment. Input from nursing. Now, that's not just mental health nursing, but key to the whole idea of perinatal mental health, also input from our colleagues in health visiting and midwifery. Okay, and I'm going to talk a wee bit more about that as we go on, but basically each team will have a specialist perinatal mental health midwife and a specialist perinatal mental health visitor. Now that's quite innovative. Not all teams across the UK are doing that. And I have to say, having been working in Belfast for a while with the new teams in place, I'm delighted that we've gone that direction. And I think it's going to make a huge difference to the way these teams work. Social work input. Now, this is not from family and childcare social workers. This is from mental health social workers. They will function as key workers, but they will also keep us. They will also keep us right with specific regard to issues like vulnerable adults, and where there are any safeguarding issues. So they're a key part of the team. Occupational therapy. So again, when I started the team in Belfast, we didn't have occupational therapy input. I've had the luck, I've been lucky enough to work with our new occupational therapist over the last few months, because actually she was one of the first people that took up post in the new team. And I can tell you the difference that it has made to the team already. Occupational therapists, for example, are able to provide group work, and Belfast now has at least one group up and running, but they're also able to work with those women who wish to return to the workplace, and also for women who don't wish to return to the workplace but who are struggling with functioning with daily tasks, struggling with their confidence, and it's just been a revelation to me to see the difference that occupational therapy can make in these women's lives. There will also be input from parent-infant psychotherapists, where that is needed, and having had conversations recently about this, I do think it's important to stress that it's not always needed. A lot of our women are actually doing exceptionally well at the job of parenting, but sometimes the illness is so significant that it does impact on the relationship with their baby, and we hope to be able to identify that at a very early stage and provide the proper expert input that's needed to rectify that and to set things on the right path. There will also be input from peer support, and I suppose that's something that we're becoming increasingly aware of, and increasingly aware of the difference that it can make. And if you look at organisations like the one that Michelle is running, the parent rooms, we see very clearly the difference that peer support can make, and we do hope in the future that that will be an integral part of each team in each of the 5 trusts. I've put pharmacy in brackets because I think we kind of missed out here. I think we should have been more careful about including pharmacy when we put the initial business case together. There's absolutely no doubt that there's a role for pharmacists. Prescribing in pregnancy and in lactation is a very specialist area. It's something that you constantly have to keep on top of. You constantly have to keep yourself updated, your knowledge updated. And even in areas like preconceptual counselling, which these teams will be offering, absolutely crucial to pharmacy input. And I think it was a mistake we made at the beginning to leave pharmacy out of the teams, and we are putting together a strategy to try and rectify that and to have pharmacy included. I think they're a crucial part of the teams, and I just think that was a mistake that we made when we put the teams together. Okay, so what is our aim? So our aim is to provide an equitable service across all 5 trusts and to eliminate a postcode lottery. And you will all be well aware that Belfast has had a small team for many years, probably dating back, well, the service started up into the year 2000, but we've probably had a team in place since about 2004, 2005. But that's never been available in any of the other trusts before. So the idea behind this was not only to expand Belfast, the Belfast team, and make it a fully functioning and very comprehensive service, but to do this, to replicate that service in the other 4 trusts. It's very important that these trusts, those of you who've had experience with mental health will be aware that each of the 5 trusts deliver their mental health services in very different ways. Okay, and that's a real problem. It's a problem not only for the people that are in receipt of the services, but it's also a problem for other professionals such as GPs, counselling services, you know, all the different services out there. They struggle with the way services are administered in each of the 5 trusts. And our aim really is that these services will all deliver care in a very similar way and that there won't be that confusion. And with that in mind, we're trying to agree common pathways, we're trying to agree common referral criteria, assessment processes, the way we care plan for patients, and discharge arrangements. And the PHA is very clear that so there will be a central network, there will be a small group of professionals who are charged with making sure that these services are delivered in the same way across all 5 trusts. Now, that's not to say we don't have to be flexible. Of course, we do. You know, we do have to be aware that that may be impossible to completely eliminate difference, but by and large, patients should be in receipt of the same care in each trust. Okay, so what have some of the challenges for us been? Okay, well, firstly, resources, all right. Mental health, as you know, is under-resourced on the whole, and is really struggling with staffing issues at the moment. And I mean, I suppose as we've come around to setting these teams up, I've been more acutely aware of that. There just aren't enough staff on the ground. People feel extremely demoralised at the moment. From the point of view of perinatal, we have no problem filling these posts. It is a very popular specialty to be involved in. It's very rewarding. People see it as a real opportunity to make a difference, and especially see it as an opportunity to make a difference now when the services are new. But the problem is that in recruiting people to these teams, we are stealing them really from other mental health teams, and that has been a real issue for us. The other resource issue is one of accommodation. All 5 trusts struggle with providing accommodation in terms of building, and in some trusts that's been much worse than others. In Belfast, we've been very lucky in that I have an astonishingly resourceful secretary called Siobhan, who spotted an opportunity for us and nabbed a huge office for us about 6 years ago. I'm still not quite sure to this day how she did it, but every trust needs a Siobhan, I have to say. But unfortunately, most other trusts have not been as lucky as that, and it has been very, very difficult. I think we're nearly there. We had a meeting this morning, and I'm pretty sure each trust has now identified what we hope will be reasonable accommodation. Then when you look at, and we'll go on to talk about some of the disparities between the trusts about where they actually are at the moment. But I mean, this is something that is all new to me. The timescales and the processes for the appointment of staff are painfully slow. So first of all, you have to get the jobs up. You have to get the job descriptions drawn up. You have to get the job descriptions approved. You then have to go out, you have to appoint a panel. You have to get the panel to agree a date. And then you go to interview, the people are appointed, and I think to myself, that's great, but it's not. So what happens then is that they have to go through, that appointment is a conditional appointment, they have to go through their pre-employment checks, and they are not formally offered the job until those pre-employment checks go through. So those are things like Access NI checks, and that can take a further 4 to 6 weeks. Okay, then the person, they go through all these checks, they are then officially offered the job. At that point, they accept the job, but then they have to work their notice, which can be up to 3 months at least. Okay, so you can see there some of the problems about bringing brand new staff into brand new teams. Okay, and that's, you know, a new service brings other challenges as well, in terms of protocol, in terms of just interfacing with other services. Services feel stretched, they feel hard done by, they struggle with the fact that these new teams are being appointed when we can't resource properly the services we have. So it is extremely challenging. We have to make sure as well that our training is right. We have a competency framework, and we need to make sure that all our staff feel able to deliver the level of expert care that we feel that we are requiring them to deliver. Okay, COVID, of course, has been a massive challenge, as you may have guessed. And, you know, sometimes I just can't believe the way things happen. We were very close to getting these services in place, probably about, about 8 years ago. And the next thing, the assembly falls, like literally we were about 2 weeks away, I think, from getting some kind of agreement. And this time around, we were in the same position, and the next thing, COVID strikes. You would need to write it. I think probably in my retirement, I think I will write a book about it. So COVID is still a challenge for us. You know, it's still obviously having an impact, a huge impact on the health service. And it's not, but it has also, I think, probably had a significant impact on the mental health of the population, particularly in terms of anxiety. Okay, and then the other challenge, which I didn't put up, and which is going to be a challenge for us, is budgetary constraints, particularly if the executive is not up and running again. You know, so really, really challenging, and I hope, you know, that will explain to you why maybe services in some areas aren't up and running the way we would have liked to have thought. Just to say, the team all these teams, for the most part, will undertake direct patient management. Okay, I feel very strongly about this. They will manage a significant caseload of women who are not well, and, you know, they will key work, and they will be involved in all aspects of the woman's care. Okay, these are not teams that dip in and dip out and say, oh, we'll come and give you advice about how to do this. They are teams who will actually manage these women. Okay, in the first instance, some of the teams may have a more consultative role until they are able to get fully up and running. And with some people in the longer term, a consultative role may be appropriate, but that will be a very small proportion. Okay, but we will also have a role in working alongside the community and voluntary sector, and in supporting them in the work that they do with the less severe end of the spectrum. Okay, and that's a very important role for us. And we're already working at building up very close links with the likes of Michelle's organisation and with other organisations who are delivering excellent care and input to the women that they're involved with. Okay, so just to explain to you very briefly, I thought it might be helpful just to talk about the way these teams are going to be working. So the woman will be referred into the service, okay? Now that will come from the referral will come from a number of different entry points. She might be referred by her GP. She may be referred by another team in mental health. So, for example, a community mental health team who's looking after a woman with bipolar disorder who gets pregnant may decide to refer her, and quite rightly refer her, into the perinatal mental health team so that she can benefit from their expertise. We will also accept referral from maternity services, so from obstetricians and midwives who will identify these women as they come through the antenatal clinic. And we also will be accepting referrals from health visitors. At the moment, these teams are not in the position to accept self-referrals. I think we need to be open-minded about that in the future, and I know that there are some teams in England who are able to accept self-referrals, but we won't be able to do it at this stage. The referral will be a team meeting will be held every week, and all referrals will be fully discussed at that team meeting. We may want to go back to the referrer and get a bit more information. We may want to look at notes to get more information, but then the decision will be made about whether or not the woman needs to be assessed, or whether she can be signposted to other services that may be more appropriate for her at this particular time. If the decision is made to be fully assessed, for the woman to be fully assessed, she will be fully assessed at a new patient clinic and will be fully assessed by a very senior member of the team. And that will be a very comprehensive assessment. And at that time then, the decision is made whether to admit the woman to the caseload or to signpost her on to other services. Okay, so that's just to give you some idea. Just some very key considerations. The majority of women that are admitted to the caseload will be appointed a key worker. This is absolutely crucial, okay? So when Belfast ran with a very small team, with myself and Lynn Hamilton CPN and Orla Brooks social worker, a lot of the women were just held by myself at outpatients because Lynn and Orla simply did not have the capacity to provide a good service to huge numbers. And I have to say, I always felt those women were a bit shortchanged, the ones that came to outpatient clinics. And the one thing about these new teams is that will not happen anymore. Every woman, or almost every woman, will be appointed a key worker at her point of entry into the service, and that key worker will stay with the woman right the way through to discharge. And the key worker performs a number of roles, really monitoring mental state, delivering treatment, advising on treatment options, advising on medication options, and liaising with family, and providing, crucially, a point of contact if either the woman or her family are concerned. Family will be involved wherever it's appropriate, and by that I mean where the woman gives permission. Okay, and you know, we really hope that we will be able to involve the family of almost all the women on the team, either partner, father of the child, or other family. Okay, a range of different modalities of treatment will be offered. We will be able to offer group work, we'll be able to offer individual work, parent-infant work. This will be tailor-made to whatever we see as what will benefit the woman. That will be discussed on an ongoing basis, and there will be constant revision of the plan, of the care plan. So a woman may start off, for example, in individual work. At some stage, she and her key worker may feel, well, look, actually, you might really benefit from group work at this stage. So there'll be constant revision and tailoring of the plan to suit the individual person. Okay. The other thing that I just want to say here is the maternity context will be at the absolute centre of the work. And by the maternity context, I mean things like, we know timescales are different here. So for example, there's no point in us saying, putting a woman on a waiting list that she's going to sit on for 6 months. That just doesn't work. You know, the woman needs treatment there and then. So our waiting list for new patient appointments, routine new patient appointments, should not be more than 4 weeks. And urgent referrals, we would hope, will be seen within 10 working days. Okay, so that's one aspect of the maternity context. The other aspect is things like care planning. You know, we can't ignore the maternity context in care planning. We have to look at who's going to be with the woman, for example, modes of delivery. You know, what's the most appropriate mode of delivery here? Does mental health impact on what the appropriate mode of delivery is? Who's going to be with the woman in maternity hospital? Is a side room more appropriate? Is a general ward more appropriate? So all of those things are part of our day-to-day care planning. And that's why it's so crucial. The perinatal mental health midwife is going to be such a crucial part of the team, because she will be our go-between between ourselves and maternity services, and she'll be a crucial person involved in that care planning. And likewise with the health visitor to advise on things like breastfeeding. So all, you know, that's really what I mean when I talk about how important the maternity context is and how it is at the centre of all the work that we do. Okay, so now to get back to the question that I promised that I would answer, where are we now? And the answer is it's a very mixed picture. Okay, and I hope what I've said goes some way to explaining why it's such a mixed picture. Now, clearly Belfast Trust has had a head start. Okay, we've had a service in place for years. We've had relationships have built up. We've a high level of expertise, and we really did. We were able to kick off almost straight away, and we knew exactly what we wanted. And now we are almost fully appointed. We don't have a midwife in place yet. And we don't have psychology in place yet. And those are really the key areas at the moment that we're lacking in. And those are to do with resource issues that we're hoping will be addressed in the next few weeks. I have to say, I am absolutely thrilled to bits with, I can only speak from Belfast's point of view. I'm absolutely thrilled to bits with the team that we've appointed. I think we have appointed outstanding people. And I think it's going to be an outstanding service. We're seeing, Belfast is seeing on average about 5 new patients a week and are delivering a very comprehensive service, with the exception obviously of psychology, but we do have a parent-infant psychotherapist in place. South Eastern Trust have made excellent progress. They are now, I think, fully appointed. They had their launch, which some of you may have been at, I think it was last week, which was extremely successful, and their caseload already is rapidly expanding. Okay, and I suppose that's one of the things that we just need to be careful about as well. We need to make sure, in order to deliver a good service, we need to keep caseloads at a manageable size for key workers. That's why the work goes so well, because when I worked in Belfast, I was extremely protective of caseload size for the 2 key workers, because they need time to be able to deliver the right kind of care. Western Trust, Northern Trust and Southern Trust have all faced particular challenges. But what I would say is that although none of these services or trusts are currently offering a service, they do at least now have key people appointed and starting up in post, and we hope that they will commence a consultative service as soon as possible. Can't give a timescale for when the teams will be fully appointed, but we will hopefully know that over the next couple of months. Okay, so that is where the trusts are. And I'm very happy to take questions. I just think I've maybe one or two more slides. What are the next steps for the regional group? So firstly, we are looking at the provision of the MBU, and where we are at the moment with that is we have said the trusts have all expressed an interest in hosting the MBU, and we're going to draw up a list of criteria against which we're going to ask each of the trusts to say, well, look, we can meet that criteria or we can't meet that criteria. So that's really where we are at the moment with the MBU, and a business case will be written for that. We also have subgroups. One of the subgroups is looking at outcomes and how we measure outcomes. This is a big amount of money we've been given. And it is really important that we show that we can deliver, okay, and that we are given value for money with these services and that we are not wasting this money. So we need to measure that these teams are making a difference. And we are currently looking at the way that we are going to measure that. And we've made quite a bit of progress with that. We also have a subgroup looking at interfaces with other teams within the trust, and also interfaces across trusts. So as you can imagine, a lot of women will deliver their baby in one trust and then go home to live in another trust. Particularly, actually, it happens quite a lot between Belfast and the South Eastern Trust. So we're just looking at making sure that women don't lose out, and that their care transfers across the trusts very smoothly. And then the other group that we've set up, and this is actually working really, really well, is what we call a perinatal forum, which involves senior clinicians appointed to the teams. So all the consultant psychiatrists, all the psychologists, and all the 8A team leaders, who are all from a nursing background, are all meeting together on a regular basis to ensure that we are using the same documentation across the teams and that we are delivering services in the same way. And it's very supportive for the trusts that are just starting out. And it also means that we can identify issues as soon as they arise and take steps to address those issues. Okay, so Lindsay, that is me. I hope that was all right, and that I've answered a lot of people's queries, but I'm very happy to take any more questions.
Oh, thank you so much, Janine. That was really, really helpful, really great. I've had a few questions been sent through to me privately, just on the chat, so I'm going to have a quick look. There's a few of them I might just ask you, just so people feel that their questions have been answered, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So one of them you mentioned at the end there around the mother and baby unit. People are asking, is there any way they can support the campaign for a mother and baby unit or the call for that? Is there any way in which you're looking for support for that?
Well, I mean, I think keeping it, I think it does have quite a high public profile, but we've got to keep it up. But Lindsay, there's absolutely no doubt that the public campaign that you ran made a huge difference to the provision of the specialist teams. And I think we just keep going, and I think we will get there with the MBU. So write to your MLAs, write to your MPs, keep it up there, keep it very much at the forefront of everybody's mind.
Thank you. Yeah, brilliant. Another one here saying, what about, obviously there is, but something around the criteria for access to services, and will that be known, or how will people be aware of what that is?
Yeah, so we are in the process of finalising the criteria. And we will, that will be obviously shared with all professionals, and probably, I suspect that, we will have information leaflets. So I think Belfast already has one, and all the criteria will be provided in that information.
Fantastic. Another one here, delighted to see that you mentioned peer support and how important that is. How do you think that you could see that maybe becoming part and parcel of the specialist perinatal mental health team?
Okay, Lindsay, I mean, it's crucial, it's absolutely crucial. And as I say, these teams have been implemented in phases, and it was important to get, for me, the most important people to get into the teams were the key workers. People may differ about the way they feel about that, but I feel strongly that you need people on the ground ready to deliver the care. But the peer support workers are going to be absolutely crucial and will be appointed as soon as possible.
Brilliant, thank you.
So there'll be a peer support, sorry, I should have said there'll be a peer support worker in each trust.
Brilliant, that's great. And then just finally, we'll pick up on this one, just around the community involved research organisations are very keen, obviously, to engage with the specialist perinatal mental health teams. How does that even conversation begin for any of those who are interested in some that are beginning in their area? I realise the Belfast Trust has worked very closely with some, but maybe in the other areas, how do you encourage that to take place?
I would email. I would find out who the 8A is in each trust, or the consultant psychiatrist in each trust, and I would email them and say, are you aware of my organisation? Very keen to establish links here. But I think, I would hope they will be reaching out to C&V themselves, Lindsay. It is something that we're constantly talking about. And I suppose, one of the things I talked about was the expectations. I suppose we're all aware we absolutely must link all these services up. We definitely must. We've got to support each other.
Fantastic. No, thank you very much. Janine, that was all really, really helpful. Thank you. That is all the questions I've had sent through to me. Really appreciate your time. We know you're away and you've taken time out of your day away to join us. So we really do appreciate that. And thank you for all the work that you are doing. You've done up until now, but thank you for the work that you're doing with the PHA. And we look forward to getting further updates and hearing more from you, and for working out how we can help and support the work that you're doing in the months and years ahead. So thank you, Janine.
That's brilliant, Lindsay, and thanks a million for asking me. I've really enjoyed it, and it's good to update everybody.
Thanks, Janine.
Okay, bye.
And so for all our guests here, we are going on to our very last and final session, which is Shirley Miller from Parenting NI. So if you log out and log back in, we'll have our final session together, and we're really looking forward to hearing from Shirley. So see you soon.